Thank you, Mr. Shantanu. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the toughest sessions to run, especially in the context that we stand between your lunch and this session. As we know that we have to run very quickly, so I'd straight go to the session. I would request Mr. Vipin Surelia, head of Check Clearing and ACH, National Payments Corporation of India, to kindly make a statement so that we can take it forward as we go ahead.
Thank you. On a quick note, we run a whole family of Aadhaar products from NPCI, right from the big payment bridge, which provides the backend infrastructure for government to do the direct benefit transfer. And just to share a few numbers, we have done from April this year around 1.7 crore transactions on that mapper. We have a multi-session capability. We are already doing 2 sessions like NEFT. On a much bigger platform, we support both Aadhaar as well as the account-based transfers. And the mapper, the magic that Anand was mentioning, one of the magics that we have created is we have reduced the complexity. Using just the Aadhaar number, you can do a transfer, and that is achieved by keeping a big mapper at our backend, and the mapper entries are around 3.4 crore mapper entries are already there, and we expect that number to go up to 10 crores by the end of March 2014. On the mobile side, and Anand mentioned this, we have been collaborating with banks and other partners to create IMPS, which is the only 24/7 transfer or remittance service currently available in the country. We have added the Aadhaar dimension to that as well. In the beginning of October, we launched an Aadhaar-based remittance service. Using just the Aadhaar number, you can do a real-time transfer, and that money is withdrawable immediately. So that's on a quick note. I hand it over back to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would now like to move forward and take a view from Mr. K.P. Shah, the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Cenresa Technologies Private Limited.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cenresa has been working in this financial inclusion for last many years. We have seen this whole paradigm shift in this financial inclusion, right from the offline transaction to now the real-time transaction. So, and we are one of the early implementer of Aadhaar-enabled payment system for the DBT, long back 1.5 years ago, almost. And we have been seeing every day, we are discussing with bankers, and I believe most of the bankers are also on the same opinion that every day there is a bombshell to them, right? Someday it is AEPS. What is AEPS? Some next day they come about the Aadhaar payment bridge. The very next day they had a new terminology which is NEDGE or ABPS. So, and everyone is confused, I believe so. So, and to be very honest, what we see that at the end of the day, all these things is for the DBT or to remit the cash to the beneficiaries. So, and what we have seen in this Aadhaar-enabled payment or the Aadhaar technology, even the states who have achieved a major part, 60%, 70%, they're also not ready to move to the other platform because they are afraid maybe it will hamper their political mileage, or maybe there could be some other reason. So now what we feel is there has to be a middle way round. I mean, we cannot move directly 100% to Aadhaar, nor we can avoid Aadhaar as a platform which is proven. So what we have been proposing to a lot of states is every state should have their own platform or what we call a government benefit gateway, where and I believe we have seen like all the states have the database of all the beneficiaries, right? And there what they can do, they can integrate with the banks where the benefit can be transferred, and if the beneficiary have a Aadhaar, it will route to the Aadhaar platform, and if there is no Aadhaar for that beneficiary, it could be routed directly through the fund transfer from the government benefit gateway altogether. So that will give a, confidence to the government where, whatever is the technology tomorrow, which we don't know what technology that is going to come tomorrow. By the time Aadhaar is stable, there may be a different technology altogether. So by the time even the technology changes, right? So the government have the information which he can immediately switch to the technology. So that there has to be some middle layer for the state government which will actually get connected to the beneficiary. And what we see, like a lot of state government are asking for the disbursement report, right, which bank is not able to give. If it is routed through that middleware, then the government on a single click get the information like what is the transfer, how much amount is transferred, and at the end of the day, how much money the beneficiary is withdrawing through the last mile channel. That is the beauty of having a gateway. And today, say 10% or 50% beneficiary of particular state have a Aadhaar, right? That can be routed through Aadhaar. Rest can be routed directly through fund transfer. So that's why, and about the mobile banking, it's not mobile banking means like customer has to use the bank, mobile for the banking. We have the IMPS, in the last session that we have said, IMPS is also a mobile banking platform where from this device, we can use this IMPS for instant transfer. So altogether, Aadhaar, e-governance and mobile platform will definitely bring a difference, in this whole DBT or financial inclusion. That is my firm belief. Thank you.
Very interesting that we got two things from the statement made by Mr. Shaha, which is very important. One is that having to have an intermediary gateway, which will facilitate. And of course, the reporting for the regulatory environment is also important, and that needs to be catered to. I now will go to our representation from the government institution, Mr. A.V.V. Prasad, the Additional Commissioner for Rural Development, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Obviously, Mr. Prasad will make a statement of his own, but please keep in mind that I have a question that how fast can we take e-banking, mobile banking closer to the people so that the unbanked community can be brought to the banking environment, and what are the initiatives your state government is taking in this regard?
Thank you. I am very glad I have this opportunity. I want to answer all your difficult questions now, especially the one which you want to ask about viability. Actually, I have presented a paper already. It is there hoisted on the conference portal. It is next to the home button. How many of you have read it so that it makes my job simple now? How many of you read it? Okay. Now, let me save the time by directly discussing the issues that were raised by all the speakers in the foregoing sessions. Now, let us build a critical mass and let us also make it viable. And that's how it is done. We want to implement DBT and also FIP in all the villages of India. There are 6 lakh villages. Let's all walk. The cash requirement, yes, that is true. So every BC should have a BC account on which he or she will be able to draw up to 1 lakh from any ATM of any bank. And BPR, your present products don't move at all. They are not designed. So entire processes, products have to be re-engineered. And I have discussed this with my partner banks. I am going to conduct a workshop for them how to redesign. And then transparency has to be there at the payment point. And most of them are illiterates even now. So there has to be a printout and a voiceover in the vernacular. There has to be a passbook if it is required, which is filled up by the concerned last mile operator. If a mini statement is required, it should be printed and given. And entire thing should work on multi-agent platform. And there are areas where connectivity has not gone, so offline systems must be available. And then you should have a RuPay card or MasterCard or any card which is linked to an Aadhaar-based account. And there should be biometric, all the ATMs in the country should be biometric enabled, and all larger villages should have biometric ATMs. And the power is a big constraint, so it should have a solar module, and then a standard package of interoperable FI services. You have seen the experiment of this common RFP, how it failed. So you should come up with an interoperable standard package so that all the small banks, cooperative banks can immediately adopt it, and also there can be, it should be in open source. So everybody can come on the FI platform very easily. And because it is standardized, and it will be interoperable. Because each bank has to work on that, you should not have proprietary systems which will fail on the portability platform. And everything has to be time-based. So timelines have to be drawn in, and I am recommending that it should not take any more than 3 years to give services in every village. In fact, we should immediately order purchase of these 6 lakh ATMs. And then we have to trigger the gold rush. Anybody who is entering this field should not lose. You should render service based on service rendered, you should be paid, and it should be settled on the same day. You should not go around people, see, I have made 30 lakh Aadhaar transactions, and nothing is paid to my banks or to me. I am paying them 2%. And Aadhaar should be run as a public utility on no loss, on no profit basis, and nobody should be doing this repetitive work of private enrollment and private databases. That should be totally banned. Then there should be there should be a law for UID and financial inclusion and for DBT. So there should be a common law for that. And then rollout strategy has to be there. And there should be this unified model of implementation. I think I have said it. Hope I have not taken much of your time, but if any questions are there, I am ready.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. Very enlightened presentation. And I think from here, because of time constraint, we straight go to some question answers from the floor. So can my colleagues in the floor respond should there be any question? There's a question on the front table.
I completely read your document. I got only 2 observations, sir. I think there is one expenditure part which has been missed out, and that is part of what I am doing. The services that I am providing, the cost of those services have not been included. You have taken the cost of what is to be paid to the BC, but then the service provider, TSP, and the BC aggregator, their costs have not been taken into account, and probably they will cost as much as what you have proposed to be paid to BC, or probably more.
I think I have factored in that one also. Take a look, please take a look.
Sir.
I have mentioned that service provider as one of the stakeholders.
Yes, sir. Sir, but in your calculation, you did not include that cost when you did the rough calculation just now.
Please add that.
Okay, sir.
0.4%.
Sir.
Yeah.
On the income side, it will be some time. It may take 3 years, it may take 4 years before the income.
No, actually, it is on 7.5 point. Technology service provider 0.4%. Hardware and software services. It is included.
Sir, I am talking in the terms of absolute numbers. In absolute numbers, right now the income will take some time to flow in the FI business. DBT is fine, sir, but we have taken a large chunk in the income from the FI business. Now this FI business will take some time to come in, and till that time, it is not profitable for the bank to do business, and therefore, the government will have to handhold, probably increase this 2% to probably 4%.
There is no business in the world which has shorter payback period than DBT and FI. Let me tell you, Per annum, the benefit you are getting, revenue is 34,000 crores. The savings is 1,40,000 crores. And the expenditure you are incurring is 10,000 crores. What is the payback period? We are all just, we have turned the utensil down. Okay. Right? We have to turn it right.
Can we have the next question, if any, from the floor? Apparently not.
And we are on time. We are on time.
No, I wanted, if there's no question, I think one aspect needs to be, you spoke very little, Mr. Surelia. Ram had covered most of the points last week. But the important factor is these automated clearing houses.
Pardon?
I'm asking question to Mr. Surelia. Can you enlighten me with how it impacts? Because there is a big way that RBI is going ahead with that. Probably you can enlighten the audience a little bit about what it makes and how it makes the differentiation. Because very simply stated, RTGS and NEFT is making life easy even for the mid corporates. As it translates down, then how it impacts. And we are talking about roughly 1,100 number of SCH on the couple of 2 years' time. So how it impacts, and if you can enlighten, it reflects on the IMPS also to a certain extent, what it happens.
So thank you for giving us that opportunity. So ACH is, and as you mentioned, it's automated clearing house is a common platform that we have created at the NPCI end to be able to push and pull transactions. Today you have multiple systems which are fragmented. On the credit side, you have the NEFT, the NECS, which are there, and of course you mentioned about RTGS for the real-time gross settlement. And thankfully, RBI has introduced a new generation of RTGS last Saturday, which is ISO 20022. So RTGS is a real-time gross settlement system. Today, if as an end customer you are doing a transaction, those transactions wait in the banking system and the beneficiary gets credit at a later point of time. In an RTGS system, the beneficiary gets credit in a much shorter window, maybe 15 minutes, half an hour, and each transaction is settled on a transaction by transaction in the RBI books of account. Then we go to batch system, like all your check clearings which are there, they are batched. They are settled later in a day. Similarly, the ECS or the file payments or the dividend payments which corporates do, or the money which is pulled by utility services like Reliance energy bills or MTNL or Vodafone bills, they are all examples of small repetitive payments which happen across the industry, across the nation, and they are currently settled in a lot of fragmented ECS distributed clearing houses which are there in the country. ECS is around at 91 locations offered by different banks. What NPCI has done is NPCI has created a single platform to push transactions based on, I mentioned earlier also, on the IFSC account, the way it happens on the NEFT platform, or based on the Aadhaar number. And sir, you mentioned if there can be a single format using which both Aadhaar and non-Aadhaar transactions can be offered. Yes, we have been offering it for over a year, and there are banks who have adopted that. They send us a single file containing both account as well as Aadhaar number. That is one USP that we have created. On the Aadhaar side, it is a commendable work which banks have done, and Aadhaar also flows through the ACH system. Just imagine a scenario within a couple of hours of window, banks are able to return us the transactions. Government gets to know what happened to the money it sent across or the file it sent across to the banking system by the end of the day. It's a commendable job that banks have done. We do a T+0 settlement. It's the same day cycle. It ends the same day. The government departments are aware of the fate of the transaction. On the pull side, where those of you who are in the industry, there is something called a mandate. And mandate is a pain point for the aggregators, for the banks, for the end customer. We have created a centralized mandate management system or a platform where, like your checks which are scanned, we also have created a capability banks can scan those mandates, send it across, and we register those mandates permanently in our system. So next time you do a transaction, we first check whether a mandate is there or not, and then only send it across to the destination bank. From a capability perspective, Day Zero, along with our service partner TCS and Montran, we have created a capability to process 10 million transactions. And if you look at the numbers which are there in the country, if leaving aside Aadhaar, which we are anticipating will blow up massively. We are looking at huge number, around 2 billion transactions a year, starting 15, 16. So if you look at only the ECS transactions which happened, 30 crore transactions happened last year in the entire ecosystem. We have created a capability to do processing of 10 million transactions on a daily basis. How it gels with the IMPS is, we are looking at partnerships, collaborations to create a next generation of product where we can mix and match IMPS and NACH. The transactions are originated using the NACH platform, but if somebody wants money immediately, we can convert them into the IMPS formats and send across, or the other way around. It can be if the file comes on the same platform using the IMPS and we aggregate this, we send it as an NACH transaction. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
We have one last question from the floor.
So like in case of Aadhaar, like EAs, enrollment agencies are third-party administrators, and government is paying directly to third-party, like to enrollment agencies. But in case of FI, financial inclusions, if government is saying BCs, you have to involve BCs. So why government is not paying directly to BCs itself for their direct survival? Because in case of Aadhaar, if enrollment agencies, government is directly paying to enrollment agencies, so why there is not a, in case of financial inclusion also? If government is saying you have to involve BCs, so instead of giving commission or like anything else, if you have to go, you have to think about a long term. So why there is a fixed salary for the BCs itself in case of FI also?
Yes, of course.
Let me tell you, what we are seeing now, since we are working in financial inclusion and our one of our sister concern are also BC, now bank have been more, previously what they used to do, they used to give a, single figure to the BC or the TSP and they used to manage. But now what we are seeing, a lot of banks are making a ratio. If it is a ratio like you have to give BC 60%, 20% you can keep for the TSP, 20% the BC. Those ratio banks are binding in the agreement. Now almost all banks, what we see in the agreement that they are making with the TSP or the BC, they are mentioning the percentage that they have to ensure that at the end of the day the BC should get. So which is a welcome, which we feel will serve what you are saying. Your concern is that at the end of the day BC should get a sufficient money from the total share, right? That I think most of the banks are now ensuring that part, which we have experienced now.
Thank you, respected panelists, for being with us here today. And I would say that we have been absolutely on time. Very interesting discussions have happened, and we would like to close this session. So I hand it over to Shatruda before lunch.
Actually, we have to close. But what I want to do, I asked Vipin or maybe probably Ram could have been explained it. See, what happened from the day one, I wanted to impress upon the fact that why it is happening financial inclusion payment systems. A lot of confusion is still there that how payment systems can really usher in financial inclusion. And whatever Reserve Bank has said and going forward, and the institution like NPCI, previously the IDBIT, and so this mesh factor, the framework that is emerging is basically time and again every session and all that, we need to highlight that. A lot of things are happening. It's not on the air, it's happening on the ground, so it will have a reflection down the line, and very many service providers are emerging and coming out, and these will be all built together because the impact itself. If you see the number of RTGS or NEFT happening on a day-to-day basis, and the mid-corporates, even low SMEs also started utilizing that, it has a cascading effect on the the supply side of the monetary circulation amongst the lower trodden people. And if we can empower even the bottom line segment, it gives you more deepening as we talk in the earlier session of the day. So we have to close now. I mean, rest of the formalities, Seema will do that. But before we end here, barring the formalities of mementos as well as, photo shoot, etc. The session next is very important. We tend to ignore these imperatives that is more feminist and all that. Women empowerment and the banking. There is a bank coming up. And unfortunately, again, the parliamentary committee has taken away Usha Ananta Subramaniam. He is designated the Mahila bank chairman. But let's discuss further down the line, and all of you attend, despite lunch and networking, I'll request you all to be present. That's another perspective is going for financial inclusion and empowerment of the women. We can't have a prosperity if 45% of the segment is pretty dark and subjugated, and many other issues are affecting their onward movements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shantanu. We would now request Mr. Mehboob Chaudhary to give away the mementos to the panelists on stage. To Mr. KP Saha, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Senrisa Technologies Private Limited. To Mr. AVV Prashad, Additional Commissioner, Rural Development, Government of Andhra Pradesh. And to Mr. Vipin Surelia, Head, Check Clearance and ACH, National Payments Corporation of India. I would request Mr. Saha to give the memento to Mr. Mehboob Chaudhary. Mr. Mehboob Chaudhary, CEO, Citicel, Bangladesh. I would request all the panelists to please step forward for a panel photograph. We would now be closing launch. We would be assembling here again at